Everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name is Ben. I'm the community lead at Ethfinex. It's my pleasure to introduce Nathan from Scroll. Nathan's the CEO, and he'll be talking to us today a bit about Scroll, the background, the token, and all that other stuff. So thanks for joining us, Nate.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Perhaps we can start from the beginning, kind of how Scroll came to be and what you guys are all about.
Well, what's interesting about the project is that it started actually 2.5 years ago, even though people really have known us for about a year. So it really started as just like building a decentralized file sharing application. And the reason why we wanted to do this is out of the frustration of file size limits and the growing issue of data privacy. So the dApp that we're building now, Slide Drive, that was the original inception of the project. That's what we only wanted to do with it, and that's where we were going with it first. We had started the project in a dorm room. We started it in college completely, and we started developing it. I recruited one of my best friends, Sam, who is now our CTO, and Mia, who is our operations officer now, and we just started building this project. And I mean, I was always into Ethereum. I was really into like the open source community of Ethereum and just the general development process of Ethereum. I love the way that it works and everything. And I was always super interested in super unique digital assets, kind of like Maker. To me, like Maker is a super unique digital asset, and I really admire the project. And prior to all of this, used to work on Ethereum a little bit and work with my own projects just to see how things would work. And I kind of grew my programming knowledge from open source work in Ethereum and Ethereum documentation. So, and the Ethereum community was always fantastic about it too. So it just helped me grow and learn. So from that point, we basically devoted our entire lives to this project, and it got so much bigger than just building a decentralized network, because we were thinking, okay, one of the main issues with Ethereum scaling at the time was that storing raw data on a blockchain was considered almost impossible. I mean, it's considered feasible now. I mean, well, it works now, but for our project, I mean, like in the greater community, a lot of people see it as feasible. And at the time, it was like, let's just use this for simple financial transactions. Let's make Ethereum as grandiose as we can, and let's see like how many projects we can put on top of this gigantic decentralized ledger. Which, I mean, it's a cool mission, and and I was always super into it. And with more documentation that was coming out on Ethereum, the better our project got. So eventually, we came to the point where we were like, we need a way to incentivize people to essentially move data on this thing, first off. And two, we need a way that we can make it friendly for businesses, because we saw a lot of opportunity in building a business-like ledger. But the roadblocks we were hitting were like, okay, we can't make this thing centralized, otherwise what's the point of having a blockchain? And digital assets directly correlate to the decentralized value of blockchains. So we were looking at projects that eliminated cryptocurrencies and tried to go to more of a centralized view. And eventually what happens is that there's like a centralized authority that just controls too much, or people become irresponsible, and then the blockchain breaks down. And, well, breaks down in simple terms. So looking at like Satoshi's whole entire vision of Bitcoin, aside from like Bitcoin itself, it was always very very serious about how blockchains need to be decentralized. They need to have like a bunch of criteria in order to consider them blockchains. And the difference mainly between like a centralized database and a blockchain is really the decentralized value of it. And the true encryption of a blockchain is the value in which you can trust someone else on the network, and the fact that they're either staking something or they're putting something up as a form of maybe collateral, or the way that they can verify that they're true is a behavioral economic breakthrough. And if you were to apply that to data, you could fix a lot of problems. So we were looking a little bit deeper about 2 years ago into like why this is happening. And a lot of people think it's cryptography, and a lot of people think that it's hardware based or software is just not there, or there's just a lot of issues with like the engineering side of centralized databases, and it's not the case at all. A lot of the main issue with these data breaches are insiders. And if you can verify everybody on the network on what they're doing, verifying their transactions of moving information, and you can verify who they are with like a KYC check, especially if it's a private-based ledger that's working as a sidechain connected to a decentralized ledger, it makes it so much more difficult to steal information and or how do I put it, offboard information. So with this whole entire mindset there, we were like, okay, well, we should probably turn this DApp into something bigger. We should probably build our own similar ledger, make it like Ethereum based, and let's grow this thing and let's see how far it can get. And we ran a Kickstarter campaign. I think it's been exactly 2 years since we ran it, and we raised $8,000 in that Kickstarter campaign. And it was enough for us to get the bare minimum in terms of development, because we wanted much more POC before we decided to go raise a full seed round. And
an interesting approach in this space where everyone's doing nice for you guys to go.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, a lot of people either they have a lot of respect for us. We did an ICO like in 2017, but like, and then some people are just like, oh man, why didn't you just do that? You could have millions of dollars. And I don't think it was ever about the money for us. I mean, we were all pretty successful students. We were pretty diligent with our work, and a lot of us did really well in school. So prior to doing this full time, a lot of us had jobs lined up at really big institutions. So we were doing it like to get experience. And for me, a lot of it was about blockchain, and a lot of it was about advancing distributed ledger technologies. So when we raised that money, it was like, okay, this is going to be inevitable eventually, but let's start this out slow. We got to get POC. If we're going to say we're promising things, we have to make sure that we deliver. Otherwise that just doesn't look good for anybody. So we went for about 6 to 8 months with that money, and we didn't pay ourselves anything. And then we were looking to raise $1 million. So we had the option of taking VC or doing a token sale. So in terms of VC, we were super young. At the time we were raising money, we were about 21. And like most of us were either 21 or 22. And we were just thinking, well, we need a digital asset. It's an inevitable for the technology. In order for it to work the way we want it to, there needs to be an incentive. There needs to be a way to pay for these transactions. There needs to be a way to validate them. So we were thinking more along the lines of like, okay, there's a bunch of different ways we can do this, but we've never been a fan of airdrops, and we've never been a fan of like trading competitions, just because we think that it inflates the value of tokens, and it's kind of against the whole entire ideal of why you would want a cryptocurrency, especially as a utility asset. I mean, for projects that airdrop, go ahead and airdrop. I just think for our specific project, it just wouldn't make sense to airdrop Scroll tokens. So
you've taken a sort of build first approach and let the value come naturally.
Yeah, so we believe very strongly in organic growth of the platform, and it's also imperative that the statistics of the token are as legitimate as possible. In the event where there's like incorrect statistics or anything along those lines, I think I was on the Maker subreddit, and someone was asking about like volumes and such on other exchanges, and how like it seemed like there was clearly some sort of funny business going on with the trading. And I think one of the mods said it perfectly, that if the volume is not legitimate, then it's very hard to measure the stability of the DAI. And I completely agree with that. So in terms of real utility assets, it's actually very unhealthy for the platform, because when you're measuring true demand, you have to look at it from a behavioral economic standpoint, from how much interest is there really in this asset. And if there's not a lot of interest, then you have to really look at the platform and be like, okay, is being operated properly? Is it going to continue to be operated properly? How do we create more demand for this? And or how do we onboard more clients, or how do we do this? So
Yeah.
it's very important to look at. And sorry if I'm getting a little bit off track.
Go for it. Yeah, you've answered a few of my questions in one answer there, which is great. But perhaps we
Okay.
can move on quickly to how the token itself grows in utility, what drives its demand. That'd be good. Yeah.
Sure. So what we did is we made a token explorer, and it's going to keep growing, but it's to add transparency to the project, and it's got every transparent value you would want for the token. It's got pretty much every single statistic that you would need to look at if you were looking as a third party into the project and being like, okay, I want to make sure that everything they're saying is true. So what we built was our own token explorer, and in that you'll be able to see the escrow wallet, existing circulating supply, and we're going to be adding releases on there. We just did an announcement yesterday on release schedule. So the way that the escrow essentially works, and a lot of people in crypto are against escrows, including myself. I actually don't really like token escrows at all. And I think that for the most point, tokens should be completely decentralized. But the reason why a token escrow is required for this project, which is kind of unique in comparison to other tokens with very large centralized holdings, is due to the potential for large transactions. So one of the use cases that we have for the token is to process it as a data transaction. So the difference between a regular financial transaction and a data transaction is that this data transaction is coming with either a document being posted to a ledger, or raw information being moved, or anything along those lines. With a standard financial transaction, usually the size of the transaction is very small, and you're just moving a record or posting a record. So in that case, it's much less expensive, and the chain can still scale with all those records being posted to the ledger, just because there's just not a lot of raw information that needs to be posted. So in terms of data transactions, we want to be able to service both consumers and we want to service businesses. So going back to the centralized roadblocks that we were having, we wanted to make sure that these business ledgers were not completely centralized, and that they still had some sort of democratic voting system within them. So that way insiders can't just take complete control of the blockchain, and whoever the authority is is at least held accountable if anything were to happen. So and in the view of a decentralized ledger that would operate our dApps, we wanted to make sure that the data was not too transparent, because if you're moving like pictures, or if you're posting a picture to the ledger that you want to view later, we have to make sure that if someone were to be viewing the criteria or the information within an individual block that was created, that you can't see everybody's photos that was disguised within a transaction. So we decided to create a new consensus called verified peer. It's essentially a rework of proof of authority. And this allows the verified individual, whatever the wallet address that was sending that original file, to be able to view that specific file. And then everybody else on the network that also has access to view the network cannot view that original posted file. So that way, it makes it so the data is truly private, and it can be decentralized at the same time, eliminating third parties. So with businesses, we're kind of taking the same approach to it, but the current focus for enterprise is mostly supply chain. And the reason why we decided to dive into supply chain is just the raw value that blockchains can provide for supply chain, especially for businesses. And also the fact that, I put this, that data is often used. A lot of raw data is required for supply chains, posting documents, liabilities, compliance, just a lot of information is being moved on these networks, especially like through SAP. If you're looking at like cataloging inventory, this is a lot of information. So we saw the scalability and growth within that medium. So we decided to focus our enterprise efforts on supply chain for now, and we're going to get that back into big data in the future. And then our big data and file sharing approach is more towards SlideDrive, which is our dApp. the we have active beta signups for Slide.
It sounds.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Okay, carry on. No, I was going to say yes. It sounds like there's many use cases for Scroll, with supply chain being the one you're focusing on immediately.
Yeah.
Is there any exciting dates in the roadmap where there's going to be any launches, or is there anything at the moment that people can use?
So right now, we're actively selling Aster, actually, which is our supply chain application. It's currently in a sandbox mode where we're building custom solutions with the actual framework for clients that want to use it, and we're building it up for them. And SlideDrive, we're looking at a very close release right now. We've been in development for a really long time on it. The primary reason that we are not launching it right now, even though we're using it in the office right now, even though we're not launching it, is there's still a lot of things that need to be ironed out, and there's a lot of bugs that need to be fixed. So we don't want to launch something and then underperform. We want to overperform with a launch, especially with something like a consumer application that a lot of people are emotionally tied to, including ourselves. We want to make sure that it's as great as possible. And there's not a lot of decentralized applications out there that involve file sharing. A lot of them are around games, gambling, or like there was one that I actually really like. It's the Upfiring DApp. I'm not sure if other people saw, like Reddit is huge on it. And I'm so happy that Reddit is huge on Upfiring because they really did a job with the DApp. So yeah,
they are in voting round actually.
Oh, cool. Sick. That's great. That's awesome. So, but I think that, I think Upfiring's DApp is pretty great. It's probably one of the more unique DApps that I've seen. And I think that, I think SlideDrive is going to have its own unique case for decentralized applications. And considering the beta signups we have now, there's clearly a lot of interest. And that's only going to grow. We haven't really started being pivotal with marketing yet because we don't want to show the world what we have until we have enough sufficient feedback. We're doing very small group work with feedback on the platform. We went to TechCrunch Disrupt a year ago, and we did some live demos of SlideDrive, and a lot of people liked it. That was with the older UI, and some of our fans from Twitter came out to check out the platform and use it themselves, and we only got good feedback. So awesome. That's really good. Also, if you go to our YouTube page, we did a live demo of Aster, and just like the perspective UI that we're going for and what we want the platform to feel like or handle like. And eventually we're going to loop the community in to help do some UI UX testing. And that'll be our focus group for that. And it'll give us enough validation to push the project forward. So a lot of people are also kind of confused, like, why are you spearheading two developments? And the reason why we are is the technology for both is very similar. We're using essentially the same stack. We just want to be able to cover both ends of an ever-growing industry, and the development efforts are actually not as intense as people think they are. And in terms of just team size that we're looking at too, we are now a team of 22 full-time people, and we're looking to raise a Series A, which is right around the corner for us. And we're in an excellent position in terms of the business, and we have people that work here full time. They come in at 9. Some of them don't leave, which is fine. But yeah, it's always good. And we just have a really awesome atmosphere. And
so what are the backgrounds of some of the team? You mentioned before that perhaps some of your friends from college were working on this with you.
Yeah.
They stayed part of the company, or what are the backgrounds?
So it's kind of funny, the backgrounds of everybody. A lot of the developers are super young. Some people contemplated dropping out. Some people did drop out. And we've just all either been working on network security for half of our lives, or we were working with either open source, or we were learning to build through YouTube tutorials years ago. A lot of us are self-taught. We don't really, we've had a pretty easy time with like programming classes in school. And it was just, it was kind of like an inevitability that we were all going to build something eventually. So in terms of the team in general, in terms of raw development experience, most of us have well over 5 years of like working with building and breaking things. And we've been doing that, like most of us live it. So a lot of people, like the reason why young developers win these crazy hackathons and the reason why they go on to just build crazy things at a young age is pretty much when your entire life you're building. And if you had an entrepreneurial mindset from a young age, you're more likely to go into programming if you're sitting on a computer. And for most of us, we were gamers. I'm still a gamer. I mean, this is my so we're more likely to gravitate towards those mediums if we have the opportunity. So a lot of us just have been working with crazy stuff. Some of us like to break things when we were in high school just because it was fun. And that's what our network security team does now. So all that's in-house too. So we're able to protect the IP we control, and we're able to build much quicker. So but in terms of like business development, business operations, we have more experienced people there, and our creative team has worked on multiple UX designs for some pretty high up Fortune 500 companies. I think that like if he looks at this recording, one of our media guys, Jordan, he has his own portfolio. It's Jordan Campbell Design, and I think that he's going to be super hyped if I plugged it in this video. So if you want to see what he has for experience in terms of UX and UI, then just go to his website and you'll see his whole portfolio. It's decorated. It's pretty awesome. So everybody's super passionate about decentralized file sharing, and it's kind of unhealthy on my end because I kind of say it like a mantra, but I really love what we build. So yeah,
it sounds really exciting what you guys are doing. It sounds like you've got a long roadmap, which is cool.
Yeah. We try to like break it up into quarters because sometimes we over deliver. Sometimes we might need to work more on one part of the project, and we want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible and realistic. Just because we list by quarter doesn't mean we're going to stop in Q3 or Q4. It just means that we're just being realistic with the development timelines.
Sounds good. I know you spoke at length about the roadmap. And perhaps you can talk about any partnerships you've got lined up, if any, if you can.
We have a lot. We just can't really mention it right now. NDAs bar me from a lot of things. What I can say is that the Series A we're looking to raise is extremely optimistic. We've been in the process for a couple months now, and we're looking at closing that very soon. And the prospective clients we plan on working with are pretty awesome. And I think that everybody is going to be super excited when they see what we're working on. And I think a lot of this stuff is going to manifest pretty soon. And normally I'm a natural pessimist when it comes to a lot of development efforts. And I'm sure that a lot of people that are going to be watching this or have watched these videos in the past, they'll look at a founder and they'll like try to analyze the video to make sure that what they're saying is true. And I resonate with those people a lot because before I was building my own project, I was backing projects, and it's really, really sad and depressing when you find out that the project was not making efforts at all the whole time, and that they were just not saying the truth. And that being said, I'm taking a very staunch development approach to Scroll, and we've always been on our timeline. We've always hit goals, and we're going to keep doing that. And in terms of partnerships, I don't want to promise something and not have it manifest. I want to be able to show people face value when we have things face value. And business relationships take time. We do B2B deals as well as B2C. So these B2B deals can take months, and we've been working on them for a little bit over 6 months, some of them, and some of them are more recent. So
it's always better to under promise and over deliver ultimately.
Yeah. And I also think that's super important for this space in general, for it to grow and for the technology to be adopted. I think that it's very important that developers and teams are transparent with the backers and those that believe in the vision. So just here to tell you that we also do Friday AMAs where I answer literally every question that the community has to offer in our Telegram, and I don't try to dodge anything. It's like some projects will be like selective with what they answer, and I try to, even if it's a personal question, not too personal, but if it's a personal question, I'll still answer it. And the reason why I want to is I want to be as transparent as possible with the community.
Yeah.
All the efforts we're making with token side of things in terms of allocations and lockups and escrow is primarily meant to be as transparent as possible. And we just want to make sure that everybody knows and can read what we're doing as well as we can. We don't want to make it so you have to have insider information in order to understand our economy and our ecosystem. The token is for everybody. It is not just for our projects. It is a data transaction token. The premise of it is to move large data transactions on big networks. And we want eventually, I mean, the eventual vision is for others to use it as well. And as the requirement for digital assets comes in, we want to have a digital asset there as an option for anybody that wants to build these really big data distributed ledger projects. And we're growing the ecosystem to be better every day, and we're trying to make it more and more transparent. Recently, we're working with a custodian to store our assets and to make it more transparent and like have third-party verification writing that off. So like I said, the token is not for us, and the token is primarily for the product, and that's how it will always be. And so long as we keep that mentality, we'll have a very healthy ecosystem.
Sounds good. And perhaps one last question, because I know we're pushed for time, but I'll include a lot of links in the description. Maybe you can tell people sort of the best way they can get involved with Scroll, whether you're a developer or just a user, potentially.
So the way that we're looking at open source development right now is we want to be able to get like a list of people that would be prospectively interested in working with the technology. We want them to help us build as well, give us feedback, and help the internal team build something incredibly formidable. So from a developer standpoint, reach out to one of our admins on Telegram and we'll put you on a list. I was recently talking to somebody from Telegram that was super interested in this, and we put them immediately on a wait list, and we'll get to them when we're at a point where we feel like we can start bringing in people for use case testing and also to have them work with the technology as well. So from a developer standpoint, that's how we're currently doing it. We have a pretty well-educated community on the technology that we're building. Everyone's super passionate. They've been here for a really long time now. So if you want to learn anything or you want to see what the project is about or examine how transparent we are, you can hop into Telegram and you can ask some questions. And I'm sure there will be somebody there that might not be an admin that will explain to you exactly what we do. And we have a very welcoming, friendly community. It's kind of small, but we like it that way because everybody that comes into the community adds value. So
cool.
If anybody is interested in looking into us more, you can also go to our website, which is scroll.network. And yeah, I mean, we try to push out as many announcements as we can when we get like a verification that we can. So, and we're in Telegram every Friday too. We are there at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, so.
Cool. We'll wrap it up there then. Thank you very much for stopping by today, Nathan. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was great. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers. See ya.
See ya.